The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fresh linen. The beeping of machines filled the air as Amara sat by Zara's bedside, gripping her tiny hand.
She's going to be fine.
The doctor assured her.
Just a mild concussion and a few bruises.
Amara let out a shaky breath.
Thank you.
She turned to the man, the driver, who had been pacing the room.
I'm really sorry.
He said again, running a hand through his neatly combed hair.
I should have been more careful.
Amara studied him warily. He was handsome, too handsome. The kind of man who belonged in luxury, not in the same world as her and Zara.
What's your name?
She asked.
Jason.
He replied.
Jason Reed.
She nodded, turning her focus back to her daughter. Jason hesitated, then pulled out his wallet.
Look, I know money won't fix this, but let me help.
No.
Amara's voice was firm. Jason frowned.
Why not?
She clenched her fists. She had been mistreated by men. Lied to. Used. She wasn't about to accept charity from another one. Jason sighed.
Okay, but at least let me check on her.
Amara wanted to refuse. But Zara suddenly stirred, blinking up at them with drowsy eyes.
Is that my new friend?
She mumbled. Jason smiled.
Hey there, princess.
Zara beamed sleepily. Amara exhaled. Maybe, just maybe, this man wasn't like the others. Days passed. Then weeks. Jason didn't just disappear after the accident. He showed up. Again and again. He brought books for Zara. Took her to the park. Bought her ice cream. And Zara adored him.
Mama, look.
Zara grinned one afternoon, holding up a pink teddy bear Jason had given her.
Uncle Jason got me a new friend.
Amara folded her arms.
Zara, he's not your uncle.
Zara giggled.
Then he's my best friend.
Jason chuckled.
Yes, I've been promoted.
Amara sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose.
Why are you doing this?
Jason shrugged.
I like Zara. She's a great kid.
Amara studied him carefully.
Is that all?
A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face.
Maybe not.
She didn't press further. She didn't want to know. She couldn't afford to. As time went on, Jason's visits became routine. He wasn't just a friend to Zara anymore. He had become a part of their lives. And, somehow, despite all her walls, despite all her pain, Amara found herself looking forward to his visits. The next morning, Jason came again. Zara squealed in delight, running into his arms the moment she saw him.
Uncle Jason. You came.
Jason grinned, tossing her into the air before catching her.
Of course, princess. I wouldn't miss seeing you for the world.
Amara stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Jason met her gaze. For a moment, time stilled. There was something in his eyes. Something that made Amara's stomach twist. He set Zara down gently.
Go play, princess.
He said softly.
I need to talk to your mama.
Zara pouted.
You're always talking to Mama. It's boring.
Jason chuckled.
I promise it won't take long.
Zara huffed but ran off, playing with a stray kitten that had wandered near their shelter. Jason turned back to Amara, his smile fading.
Why do you keep pushing me away?
He asked. Amara stiffened.
What?
You heard me.
Jason said, stepping closer.
I've been coming here for weeks. You know I care about Zara, but I also care about you, Amara.
Her breath caught in her throat.
No. No, no, no.
She shook her head.
Jason.
I love you.
The words hit her like a blow to the chest. Her knees felt weak, her heart pounding wildly against her ribs. Jason reached for her hand, his touch gentle.
I don't care about your past. I don't care about where you've been. I only care about where we can go from here.
Amara yanked her hand away, her eyes flashing.
Don't say that.
Why?
Jason frowned.
Because it's true?
Because I don't deserve it.
She snapped, her voice cracking.
I am nothing, Jason. I live in an abandoned building. I sell bottled water to survive. My past is filled with pain and shame. I don't belong in your world.
Jason's jaw clenched.
You belong with me.
Tears burned her eyes.
You don't understand.
Then make me understand.
She turned away, wrapping her arms around herself.
I can't.
Jason exhaled slowly.
You're afraid.
Amara laughed bitterly.
Of course, I'm afraid. I've spent my whole life surviving. People like me don't get fairy tale endings. Jason.
Every tear that fell, every whispered lie told me I was nothing, left me wondering why. But even when the world tried to break me down, I found a fire, it's burning now.
Jason's voice was soft, but firm. For days, Amara avoided Jason. Whenever he came, she found excuses. She was busy. She was tired. She wasn't home. But Jason saw through her lies. One evening, as she returned from the market, Jason was waiting for her. Leaning against his car, arms crossed, watching her with those piercing eyes.
She sighed.
Jason.
No more running, Amara.
Her shoulders tensed. Jason stepped forward, his voice gentle.
Why are you punishing yourself?
Amara swallowed. Because if she let herself love him, it would destroy her. Because if she let herself believe in happiness, she would only end up broken again. Jason sighed.
I don't care how long it takes, Amara. But I won't give up on you.
She stared at him, her heart aching. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into his arms and believe that love wasn't just a cruel illusion. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. So, she whispered the only thing she could.
You should.
And then she walked away, leaving Jason standing there, hurt and confused, and leaving her own heart shattering into pieces.
I've walked through the storm, but I see clearer skies. I was lost, I was torn, but love has healed what once was worn. I'm stronger than before.
That night, Zara curled up beside her mother, her little fingers tracing patterns on Amara's arm.
Mama?
Yes, my love.
Zara hesitated. Then, in a soft voice, she whispered.
I wish Uncle Jason was my daddy.
Amara's breath caught. Zara looked up at her with innocent, hopeful eyes.
He makes me happy, Mama. And he makes you smile too. Even when you don't want to.
Amara closed her eyes, pain swelling in her chest. She had spent so long convincing herself she wasn't worthy of love. But Zara deserved a family, deserved happiness, deserved a father. And Jason had never given up on them. Slowly, Amara opened her eyes and smiled softly at her daughter.
I think your wish will come true soon.
Zara gasped in delight, hugging her mother tightly. And outside, beneath the silver moon, Jason sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel. He was ready to walk away, to accept that Amara would never let him in. But then, he saw her standing in the doorway, watching him, waiting. His heart pounded. He stepped out, meeting her gaze.
She didn't speak.
She didn't need to, because when he reached for her, she didn't pull away. And as she nodded, silent tears slipping down her cheeks, Jason knew. She had finally chosen him. The night was restless. Amara lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling of the abandoned building she and Zara called home. Her heart was heavy. Jason knew part of her past, but not all of it. Not the part that haunted her every waking moment. Not the monster who had destroyed her childhood and made her afraid of men. Not the man who still roamed free while she suffered. She turned to her side, watching Zara sleep peacefully. Jason had confessed his love. Zara wanted him as a father. Could she really allow herself to be happy? Or would her past always drag her back into the darkness? The next day, Amara walked through the market, a basket in her hands. She was lost in thought, barely noticing the world around her. And then, a deep voice behind her made her blood run cold.
Well, well, well. Look what we have here.
Her heart stopped. That voice. Him. She turned slowly, her body shaking. And there he was. Her aunt's husband. The man who had abused her. The father of her child. The man who had destroyed her life. He smirked, standing tall, arrogance dripping from every inch of him.
Did you really think you could run forever?
Amara's breath came in short gasps. Not here. Not now. She looked around wildly, but no one seemed to notice her panic. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist tightly.
You better not have told anyone, girl, or I'll finish what I started.
Amara felt her stomach twist. She had never told anyone. Because of fear. Because of his threats. Because of a nightmare that still lived inside her. But this time was different. This time, she wasn't alone. Before she could think of an escape, a voice cut through the air.
Let her go!
Jason. Amara whipped her head around. Jason stood a few feet away, his jaw tight, his hands clenched into fists. His eyes burned with fury. Her aunt's husband laughed.
Who the hell are you?
Jason's voice was deadly calm.
The man who's going to destroy you.
The monster sneered.
She's a lying little whore. You don't know what she's been through. I raised her, fed her, gave her a roof over her head, and this is how she repays me.
Jason took a step forward, his entire body radiating danger.
You abused her. You used her. You took away her innocence. And now, you're going to pay for it.
The man's face darkened.
You can't prove anything.
Jason smirked.
Want to bet?
Before the man could react, Jason pulled out his phone and pressed a button. A recording played. Every single word. The threats. The confession. Everything. Amara gasped. Jason had recorded the entire conversation. The man's face drained of color. Jason tilted his head.
I have enough evidence to make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your life.
Panic flashed in the monster's eyes.
You wouldn't dare.
Jason's smile was cold.
Watch me.
In the next instant, police sirens blared. Amara turned, shocked to see officers approaching fast. Jason had already called them. The monster lunged, trying to run, but Jason grabbed him by the collar and threw him onto the ground. The police swarmed in, pinning him down. Amara watched in stunned silence as the man who had haunted her nightmares was finally taken away in handcuffs. Her aunt, who had just arrived at the scene, gasped in horror.
What's going on?
And then she heard the truth. All of it. Her hands trembled. She turned to Amara, her eyes filled with guilt and disbelief.
Oh my God!
Her voice broke.
Amara,
Amara took a deep breath. She had dreamed of this moment. Of revenge. Of justice. But now that it was here, all she felt was emptiness. Her aunt fell to her knees, sobbing.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Amara stared at her. This was the woman who had turned her back on her, who had thrown her onto the streets. And yet, she was also a woman who had been deceived. Amara swallowed hard.
The harm is already done.
She whispered.
But men like him deserve to rot in jail.
Her aunt nodded, her body trembling. Amara didn't say another word. She simply turned away. And for the first time in her life, she felt free. That night, Amara sat outside her shelter, staring at the sky. Jason sat beside her, silent for a long moment. Then he spoke.
I love you, Amara.
She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of those words. She had spent her life believing she wasn't worthy of love. But Jason had shattered every wall, every fear, every doubt. He had fought for her, for Zara, for their future. She turned to him, her eyes glistening with tears.
I don't know how to love someone like you.
She admitted softly. Jason smiled, reaching for her hand.
Then let me show you.
She hesitated. Then she nodded, and Jason kissed her.
I drown in the rain, but you held me close. You showed me the truth, that love can rebuild all the pieces we lose.
Not with urgency, not with desperation, but with love. And for the first time, Amara let herself believe in happiness. The next morning, Zara sat on Jason's lap, playing with his fingers. She suddenly looked up and grinned.
Uncle Jason?
Yeah, princess?
She beamed.
Are you my daddy now?
Jason glanced at Amara. She blushed, but nodded. Jason turned back to Zara, his smile warm.
Yeah, princess. I am.
Yay! I have a daddy.
Amara watched them, her heart full for the first time in years.
She had survived.
She had fought. And now, finally, she had found love and a home forever.
When the past tries to